back to the group chat. Still no Charlie, but we do have Goran, and he's done all right in the bets last week.
Did I, Phil? Did I?
You did indeed.
What did I do?
Now, the 50-22, you talked about sort of, not being the biggest Super Rugby man on the block, but you had Crusaders and Reds both head-to-head. Crusaders did get up over a very disappointing Hurricanes, I must say.
Yeah, I saw that on the pub on Friday night, and I was like, just keeping a close eye on it, and saw that one come through for me. Pretty rapt about that.
Yeah, I'm not sure how you lose to a 13-man Crusader side when you've got like a 4-man overlap, but whatever.
I think the
I watched it live.
Pressure. They had the pressure on them, knowing that I'd backed them, and they thought we can't lose because Goran's backed us. Yeah.
The Reds somehow managed to lose to the Brumbies, but that's okay. So you're 50% of the way there. My 40-20 fell flat on its face, so you did better than me. Nikora didn't score, and the Rabbits did a terrible job against the Cowboys. You actually backed the Cowboys, I believe, and they did
that's right.
Indeed come in. What else came in was your lock. And your lock had more value than what your laugh had. You had Sydney FC and Auckland to draw, and they did in fact draw $3.70, 2-2.
Yeah.
Crazy work from you. My laugh came in, of all things, and that was Man United versus Lyon in the Europa League. A correct score of 2-2, paying $11. So weirdly enough, that a lock paying more than your laugh was the thing to come in, and it was Auckland, and we'll get to Auckland in a second because they head to Melbourne Victory, of course, and the last time they played them was a 0-0 draw. So I think I know where your lock's heading for this week, but we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah.
So we're talking about, obviously, that Man United draw with Lyon, so they get the return fixture at home. Speaking of European comps, though, the Champions League, I guess we'll just touch on the results. Aston Villa, at one point, I thought they were actually going to go through. I think it ended, 5-4 on aggregate. But serious effort. Rashford's actually running around with the ball and taking on defenders, not one, but two or three, and then getting a nice assist there.
As a United fan, Phil, you must feel a little bit aggrieved by that, given his treatment by, and a couple of Man United managers, and then you see him playing the way he does with Villa.
I think I'm only upset because he couldn't do that for us these last couple of seasons, and obviously he has that potential. But I do. It's the same with Anthony, and he's doing bits in La Liga. I'd like to see players doing well regardless of the situation, and if they're doing better elsewhere, then so be it. It's just unfortunate when all the fans know the quality that they possess because they've showed it in the past, and then when they hit this sort of slump or they don't want to run for your team anymore, it's really upsetting. But on the flip side, good to see him in the Champions League and doing some bits and giving Villa a real shot. Because they were, after that first leg, you almost counted them out, and certainly being 2-0 behind PSG in the second leg to pull it back and win the actual match. I was like, there's a chance they qualify, and Donnarumma stepped up a couple of times for PSG, so they'll be quite lucky, quite happy they got away with the win there. Dortmund 3, Barcelona 1. I didn't really see Dortmund coming back from
4-0 down,
4-0.
right? Yeah.
And then Real Madrid 1, Arsenal 2. Arsenal, I think, just missing the penalty, as you said. What was it, like a Panenka or an attempted by Saka? But he
attempted
did end up
Panenka.
Scoring.
Yeah, he's just been real casual in his approach, telegraphed it in a sense, and then didn't go straight down the middle. You expect the goalkeeper to dive one way or the other, and he's actually given the soft Panenka to his left-hand side, which Courtois dived that way, and then almost as an afterthought, he's gone, I think I can save this one. Boop, just popped his hand up,
Thanks
kept
for
it out.
coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the risk with those ones, isn't it?
I don't think I'd be brave enough to try it in any game.
No, let alone Champions League.
No.
Luckily, it didn't matter because they had a bit of a buffer, if you will. And then Inter 2-2, Inter going through on aggregate. I thought Bayern would have won that game. But a bit of a stalemate there. Semi-finals, I'm quite intrigued by this. I think Barcelona just go through here, to be honest. But the Arsenal-PSG game might be the semi-final to watch.
Look, I mean, 3 of the 4 teams involved in the semi-finals for Champions League, they're all on track for a treble. So the only one who isn't is Arsenal, because they've sort of come up short in the league. They weren't involved. They're not involved in the FA Cup semi-finals, which are just around the corner. So this is the only title that they can win, the only trophy that they've got on the horizon. But yeah, for everybody else, they're clearly very consistent. And you touched on PSG. What an incredible feat for them to make it this far, given that they were the only one of these 4 teams that finished outside of the top 8. So they needed an extra game in qualifying, and then they came up against Liverpool in the round of 16 and beat them at Anfield on penalties to progress in the round of 16. So, yeah, PSG, incredible performance from them to make it this far. Do they have what it takes? You can't rule them out, can you, at this point, because they've exceeded expectations.
Yeah, it's been an impressive journey for PSG to claw their way to the semi-final, and outside of that second leg, they're looking very good at the moment. I think that's an area of concern for them, especially going to Arsenal to start it off. But it certainly hasn't been an easy road. When you talk about beating top of the table Liverpool at Anfield, that's some serious work to get there. So that's why I think the Arsenal-PSG clash is going to be top-notch. We'll talk about the Premier League in a little bit as well as the A-League. I do just want to focus on what's coming up first in the NRL. So the Eels and the Wasps both got pumped. That much is clear.
Yeah, and I think I knew that the Eels were going to cop a flogging in Darwin, because recent history tells us that. They go north, they play whoever, and they lose. But I really thought that the Warriors would turn up in Melbourne and take it to the Storm, and then everything that could go wrong went wrong. You know, you lose James Fisher-Harris in the first 10 minutes. You lose Jackson Ford to the sin bin for his yank back on Ryan Pappenhausen, and then the Storm didn't really need any more invitations. A couple of Warriors errors, an injury, a sin bin, and then boom, it's 36-0 at half time. There's no coming back from that.
No. We even talked about that too. You know, the Warriors, if they wanted a shot, they had to keep their errors to a minimum, and there was errors all over the park. Especially in that first half. Sucks about James Fisher-Harris as well. With that pick injury. Positive is that we won the second half, but honestly, I was so
Don't say that, Phil. It's 36-0 at half time.
I don't. Well, exactly. That's what we're clutching onto here. This is what we've come to.
Yeah, in the second half, Jerome Hughes was sat on the sideline, mate. So, you know, like, they took the opportunity to rest their big name star. So, I'm
very surprised he's been named to start actually this week.
It just shows how resilient he is.
Thankfully, the Eels did us a favour and they allowed the Raiders to score 50 on them, because otherwise we would have been the worst result of the week.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
But we've all moved on from that. We've all moved on from the results, because Lachlan Galvin's been getting the headlines this week, unfortunately for him.
Far out, has he?
He's
what?
Been put in timeout, sent to the New South Wales Cup. See you later. So he can go develop down there instead. Turned down the contract. Well, him and his management did. I don't think they even looked at it. They just said, don't even bother. Looking like 1.2 mil per year or something. That sounds right. 19 years of age. It's crazy to turn down like 6 million post that 2026 season.
It doesn't sit right with me that a guy, he's a kid basically, 19 years of age. When you watch him, there's no doubt about it. He's got immense talent, and you wonder where that talent's going to take him. Maybe Origin, maybe Australia. You just don't know. But it's all an unknown. And so to think that you're going to be paying in excess of $1 million for a guy who's not even 20, who hasn't played any rep football, I think it's absurd. And a number of high-profile characters like Phil Gould, Ivan Cleary has come out and said, look, that's just stupid money for someone who's that young, and it just puts a lot of pressure on someone who is so green in the NRL. And you've seen it backfire in the past as well, Phil. Like, cast your mind back to Ash Taylor, who burst onto the scene with the Titans, and then he became $1 million player, and he hadn't really done much. And we all know how he wound up. It was like 27 years of age and retired and absolutely broken, and never really reached the dizzying heights that had been predicted for him. So it's something that's kind of fraught with danger, eh? The pressure that you put on these kids. And look, we can talk all we want about the reports out of Australia this week, but ultimately, the guy is 19 years of age, and what kind of like mental state is this guy going to be in if he picks up his phone or he picks up a newspaper or he watches the TV and everything is about him? I think I would crumble under that kind of scrutiny. So in a sense, it's almost a blessing in disguise that Benji's made the call to put him in reserve grade this week, because, you know, imagine running out into Combank Stadium and playing against the Eels, and he would probably start to cop treatment similar to what Dylan Brown has by the Blue and Gold Army. I think the Tigers fans would absolutely turn on him. So, yeah, I mean, say what you want about what's been played out. I feel for the kid, because maybe he's been misled by a manager who's just after money, and maybe like you've also probably heard the stories about him and Isaac Moses, the agent, and Benji Marshall, them sort of not exactly coming to blows, but having disagreements over the years. So yeah, it's just a really mucky, messy situation for really, all.
Yeah, it really is, and I'm on the same sort of, I guess, thought process that you're at, where it is this 19-year-old, yes, adult, but very much still a kid, and I would say, if thinking about 19, you're still very, very impressionable. You've been brought onto first grade scene, you've been given the keys. You got the wooden spoon or whatever last season, but it's a team that's developing, and you've got some serious skill set and experience coming in and around you to sort of build around you. Yeah. I just don't understand where you see, if it's not the money, where you see yourself getting more experience. And yeah, I do wonder if this is the work of a manager that's almost hinted, or sometimes you wonder if it's for the benefit of the player or for the benefit of other people. And I think maybe he's been told otherwise, which sucks, because he's now been sent to reserve grade. And I kind of agree with you that it's the right move from the club, or the right move from Benji, because you're either going to lose Galvin or you're going to lose the dressing room, right? Where Luai and Taruva have come out like on social media, which I don't think is the right call, but let's not get into that. The team's decision, I think, I would have thought maybe benching him, that maybe sending him to the reserve grade helps, but does it just continue? Does it just make it worse now, because this player's he's not even sitting on the sideline now, he's been sent to reserve grade? Like, what happens to him and his career from this point? It's daunting. Or maybe there already is an offer that they can't talk about, that the manager has in the back wings, so he's not fussed post 2026, but it's caused a lot of drama and a lot of upset. And yeah, it's fair enough that the Tigers are very disappointed, considering how much they backed him, this young player, and just said, here you go, we'll build around you, play how you want. I don't see him playing how he wants at any other team in the NRL at the moment, so it's a very weird situation. But anyway, that's why I love the NRL, because every week there's drama.
There's always a story, mate. There's always a story.
It's incredible.
And you move on real quick. Like next week, it'll be something else, and we would have forgotten all about Lachlan Galvin and what he may or may not have said. Yeah, exactly. What he may or may not have said about Benji Marshall. So we move on quickly.
Yeah. I guess then, speaking of the Tigers, they come up against the Eels. Mitch Moses is back for you guys, which is huge.
Yeah, it's massive.
First game of the season for him. Plenty of ins for the Eels as well. Tigers, Galvin, of course, Luai and Dewey to play halves together, and Luai starting at 6. How do you see this game going as an Eels fan?
I reckon the Eels will win. And that may sound crazy.
I think so too. I think so too.
On the back of an absolute pants down hiding up in Darwin, it seems illogical to suggest that the Eels will win. But I really do feel like Mitch Moses being in the team it'll help immeasurably the attack and getting around the park, and a little bit of experience and leadership that will help out the younger guys around him. And so, an attacking line that all of a sudden is led by Mitch Moses, that has Dylan Walker straightening things up, that has Dylan Brown out a little bit wider, and also Bailey Simonson coming back into the side. He played his first game back in, what would it be, almost a year after suffering an ACL, I think it was. And, the Eels were absolute shithouse against Canberra, but
yes,
he stood out like dog's balls because of his effort. And, he made almost 200 metres, and there's just like a hell of a lot of desire in him. You can see it. It's just oozing out of every pore. And to have somebody like that in the back line, all of a sudden, if you get Zach Lomax back in a few weeks' time as well from his stress fracture in his foot, the back line actually looks okay. And I kind of enjoy what the changes are that Jason Riles has made in the forward pack as well. Jack Williams is in there. They've gotten rid of Sean Lane, who just hasn't been himself for a long time. He's physically, he's got all the attributes to be a scary back rower, but it's almost like he just doesn't want to use them. Whether it's the players that are setting him up have failed to do so, or it's just a lack of hunger and desire on his part. It's just not working for him. So a few changes have been made. And with the Tigers sort of, the bad news story maybe dragging them down, and Mitch Moses coming back in, lifting them up. Yeah, I've got an Easter Monday win, hopefully, for my blue and gold. Fingers crossed.
It's interesting because it's either for the Tigers, I feel like they've said, guys like Luai have gone, team first. So this is either a statement that they make against the Eels that this is how good we can play regardless of Galvin being in the team or not. Or it's a situation where the team's been so rattled. They've had Galvin coming in trying to explain the situation. Then maybe, you've got the social media situation. Maybe their preparation isn't all eyes on Eels, it's all eyes on Galvin. So and I think, again, not just Mitch Moses, that Jack Williams as well, a solid player. I think he was due to come back only in round 11 because I used to have him in my fantasy team, and he's a solid. I genuinely
so back in there, is he?
No, well, I had to get rid of him because he was injured, round 4 or round 3 maybe? And I was like, round 11, that's just too long to sit on the bench. And there I see he's picked round 7 and someone else has snapped him up in the draft, so fair play to them. I was not expecting it, but it's good to see him back. I'm really excited because I enjoy watching him play. So, interesting game ahead, and I think potentially game of the week, that one.
Well, what about the Wars and Broncos, though? I mean, that's got to be huge as well, right?
Easy.
Because
that's Wars 13 plus. That's not, that's easy as.
Are you serious?
No, we'll get to that news.
The stones. I was going to say, geez, you've got massive stones if you're going 13 plus.
I just think the whole Galvin situation helps, but I want Mitch Moses to have a blinder. It's his first game of the year. I'm super excited to see him back. Yeah,
me too.
But we will move on to the second best game of the week.
The silver medal. The silver medal winning game.
I'm a little bit nervous, and this is why it's probably not my focus for this week because, as we said, no JFH, no Charles Nicoll-Klokstad, that's concussion, no Rocco Berry, he's got a 1-game ban. So we've seen some serious alterations to that lineup. You've got Tua Piggyback to fullback, which I don't mind at all. You've got Ed Kossi on the wing, and then you've got a Kurt Capewell at centre, which is very interesting to me. I do like seeing Tamari Martin on the interchange. Hopefully he gets a run in. Where he gets a run in, I'm not sure. There'll have to be, again, more rejigging. So there's going to be a lot of players moving around the park and maybe playing out of the position, which makes me feel nervous against the Broncos. They are hit or miss, the Broncos, this year. They're not necessarily gun-ho, but they're still a very, very good side traditionally. So it's a nerve-wracking weekend, if anything.
Yeah, the leadership absence, if you like, or void that the Warriors are suffering for this weekend and a few weekends in the future as well. JFH, CNK, you're already without DWZ and RTS. And those 4 players, it's like in excess of 750 NRL first grade games experience. So you take that out, and clearly the Warriors are going to be weaker. I'm with you. I like Tane Tuopiki at fullback. That's his position. Last week he was, last week against the Storm, it's a tough one to sort of assess anybody's form, but that wasn't a fair battle, him going up against Xavier Coates, because Coates has probably got a foot on him, and then the leap is insane, as we've seen it before, and he broke Warriors' hearts last year as well. So
try of the year.
Yeah, so I feel quite comfortable with Tane at the fullback, but Kurt Capewell and Ed Kossi in wider areas, that does concern me. Kurt Capewell is a really solid defender, and he's got runs on the board for Queensland in the Origin arena, but I just don't feel comfortable with his lack of pace playing centre. And who knows, maybe there'll be some sort of a rehash of a lineup by Webster before kickoff, but you think of all of the pace that the Broncos have at their disposal, the acceleration
especially
and pace.
On the edges.
I think they're going to be in for a long night. Ed Kossi, he's big, he's strong, he carries the ball hard, but is he as agile as a Roger Tuivasa-Sheck or a Dylan Watene-Zelezniak? Nah. So it could be a long night for the edges of the Warriors. Now, I said this to Adam Blair the other day. I think one of the places that they can target the Broncos, though, is just putting heat on the guys like Reece Walsh and Selwyn Cobbo. On the face value, very exciting players, but they are prone to making mistakes as well. And Reece Walsh has already made 15. Reece Walsh has made plenty of errors. Between them, they've made 25. So put pressure on those two young fellas, and maybe they won't be as effective as they want to be on Saturday.
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree. And I think the concern with Capewell at centre is not, from a point of obviously experience or talent. It's purely pace. It's purely pace, isn't it? So Tuapiki might have a big job on his hands. But hopefully Reece Walsh has another shocker this season, and that will help us out. Also good to see Liga Halasima get a start, his first start of the season. Very exciting prospect. I love seeing him run. Obviously got that iconic try up against the Tigers this season. More of that, please. Warriors, $2.85. Broncos, $1.42. The point start I'm liking, which is 8.5. I feel like that's enough. We'll see. The Bulldogs are back from their bye. They take on the old Bunnies, the only team that's still undefeated in the comp. They're 5 from 5. They have the best defense in the league. And to top it all off, I don't know if you heard this yet, but for that Good Friday clash, they are anticipating 70,000 fans at Accor Stadium with offering $10 tickets. They opened up the top level. It's a massive stadium, but normally that top sort of row is kind of closed off. So they've opened that up for $10 a ticket, which is incredible. I think Sky Stadium need to take notes on that one. And also, I think Ticketek waived their fees. So huge turn up on the cards for that game. Massive, massive clash. Yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing the Bulldogs back. I love seeing them play, and they are definitely on form.
Yeah. I think fresh out of the bye as well, that's going to help them, Phil. And in front of that kind of crowd, it's hard to see their unbeaten run ending.
5 from 5. Make it 6 from 6, please.
Are we talking Bulldogs or Panthers when you say make it 6 from 6? Given that they've lost 5 in a row. It's funny, man, like how quickly things have changed for them, because
it's crazy.
People were talking about, Panthers are going to do a 5-peat this year and win another premiership, but they've instead done a 5-peat of losses after 6 rounds. It's absolutely crazy, And I cannot help but feel really, really sad for Isaiah Papali'i, who went to the Tigers from the Eels, and then, there was injury, there was disappointment, there was a spoon for him, and then he probably thought, look, I'll go to the Panthers, maybe take a pay cut, but at least I'll be part of a team that's going to be in the upper echelon of the competition. No, it hasn't panned out that way. So I really feel for the Iceman,
At least he's still performing well, because there aren't many in that team. Even Nathan Cleary had a shocker last week, and if Nathan Cleary's having a shocker, there's no way that team's getting over the line. Roosters $2.20, Panthers $1.68. I cannot fathom how Panthers are still favourites here. I think they're 5th favourite to make the grand final still. It's beyond belief how that's happened. Because it is 15th versus 16th this weekend.
Yeah, and that
as you said,
that doesn't seem right, eh? A Panthers-Roosters game being like two of the three bottom teams in the competition. That's wild.
Bonkers compared to where they were last year and how highly you would rate those two teams. And even worse, I say it again, how Panthers can be favourites in this matchup. You're on a 5-game losing streak. You failed to front up, and every week I go, this is the week they turn it around. I think I even said it last week. I'm like, I just have a feeling Panthers turn it around here.
Yeah.
And then it's another poor performance.
And
poor set of defending,
They have been so poor through this period of games. Like when they first appeared this year, and they looked really impressive against the Sharks in Las Vegas. Since they lost, I think it was the Roosters that actually set them off. In round 2.
38-32,
Yeah, so they lost that game, and across the next 4, so to obviously complete the set of 5 losses, they've conceded on average 29.6 points per game.
Yeah.
It's just insane. Yeah. I cannot get over how quickly things have changed for them. I really rate Ivan Cleary as a coach and as a human being as well. I hope that he's got what it takes to turn it around. He should do, but all of a sudden, like their backline just doesn't look as cohesive. McLean, Jenkins, they're just making mistakes, forcing passes, doing things that just aren't Panther-like, and they're paying they're paying the bloody price now.
Yep, missing passes, Cleary throwing the ball around like he's never done in his career ever, just completely missing his wingers. Panthers players refusing to pass the ball, knocking on the unforced errors like you talk about.
Yeah.
Yes, they have had their few injuries as well, and there's a combination in the halves that still needs to be ironed out. I'm almost of the favour of bringing Schneider back. I thought Schneider did a great job when Cleary was out last season. But maybe they're trying to build that Talangi and Cleary partnership up a little bit better. So, and obviously Brian To'o, he's been out with injury as well, so they're a little bit short. I still think they're not playing well enough as a team to win against the Roosters. But they do get Mitch Kinney back. That's another player they missed last week, who's at hooker. That's a huge plus for them. I refuse to back them, especially as a favourite. There's just no way. Maybe if they were the 220, if they have the 220, I'll be like, okay, they could motivate me. Maybe they can turn it around. As a $1.60 favourite, no, you're gone. 6.6, please. Super Rugby. Crusaders versus the Blues, probably the match of the week there for me. Crusaders $1.45, Blues $2.60. Both teams on a 2-game win streak. Crusaders have won their last 3 against the Blues, though, when playing at home, which is probably why you see that $1.45. I was anticipating it to be a little bit closer, considering the 2-game win streak now for the Blues. They're finding their feet a little bit, but failing to defeat the Crusaders in the last 3 at home makes it clear why. How do you see that game panning out?
Just more disappointment for Auckland, I suppose, eh? I mean, this is what we've come to expect for the most part. Blues lose to the Crusaders. You've got to go back all those years almost to find some joy when Carlos Spencer scored that try where he veered off into the corner and gave it to the crowd and then converted it. It's pretty sad when you got to go that far back into the memory banks to find any kind of real joy. I know that the Blues have done better in recent years, but I don't know. Crusaders, you said it earlier, Phil, they showed immense courage against the Hurricanes in Wellington last week, and I can't see it going any other way when they play at home against the Blues, mate.
Yeah, I think I've gone with that -5.5. It was -4.5 before the teams were named. Obviously, Caleb Clark has been omitted from the squad. I think that's an injury concern. I'm undecided. I think it's definitely Crusaders, and this is why I've gone for the -5.5, because for me, it's either a decent tight contest where the Crusaders win 1-12, or the way they were playing against the Hurricanes, they just run through this team. Yes, the Blues are coming off a couple wins, but the Crusaders at home, serious, and also with that 3 from 3 at home, I don't know. It's going to go either one or two ways for the Crusaders, in my opinion. And it's kind of kind of clear when that teams were announced as well that the bookies are starting to lose faith in the Blues as well. Also, that Rieko Ioane, he's going to Leinster on sabbatical, I think, next year.
Yeah, I saw that post, yeah.
Maybe that plays a factor too. Speaking of Auckland teams, Drawkland's back in business, as we said, with that 2-2.
Yeah.
Knicks fell short to Melbourne victory, 3-2. That looks like a decent score. I didn't see the game. Did you watch that one?
Yeah, I always put myself through a Phoenix game, Phil. And early stages of it, the writing was on the wall, man. Like Melbourne victory were either peppering the goal or shooting wide of it. There were a few bright moments for the Phoenix. Corbin Piper, I think, scored. And he's a guy who, when I watch him play, I feel as though he's kind of like a bit of a Ben Sigmund type of player, where maybe he's not as technically gifted as a lot of the other teammates around him, but he's just all heart. He's all effort, and that takes him a long way. So it was nice to see a strong performance from him. And I suppose
That's what you want.
Yeah.
That's what you want. You just want passion for the jersey, really, don't you?
Yeah, and he definitely exudes that. And then I suppose the Phoenix season could be summed up in one moment where you had a moment of brilliance from Paulo Retre, who scores from long range. And as they're celebrating the goal, he's like, yeah, I've done an injury. I need to be subbed off. So he's come on as a substitute, scored a cracking goal, and then he goes off straight away. And, it's just a season that's promised so much and then ultimately just, I don't know, died in the arse. And then, it's sort of like just a little snapshot there with Paulo's goal and subsequent substitution. But yeah, going down to Melbourne victory, it was a good game. I enjoyed it. But yeah, victory were a class above. And then when it comes to that game, Auckland versus Sydney FC, you've really got to do something special to beat Alex Paulson, because they've been one of the best defensive teams, despite their run of draws over the last, 6 games. They have been one of the best defensive teams in the competition. And to see Adrian Segicic hit not one but two from long range in the same spot to beat him, you got to do something absolutely out of this world, cosmic to beat AP. And he did it once, not twice. Or you get very
fortunate off a deflection that puts him off his feet. Yeah, that's
right.
It's a tough job.
Yeah, but I honestly thought when it was 2-0 down, I thought, my pick of a draw it's no chance here. But they managed to work their way back into the game, and boomfa, got it.
How good.
Yeah.
As I said, I have a feeling you might go back-to-back with the lock, but we'll see very soon. So next take on Adelaide United. They're on a 4-game losing streak.
It's a tough place to go, though, eh? Tough place to go. And the Phoenix usually struggle in Adelaide I think they play on a Friday night, right? So, really difficult place for the Phoenix to go historically.
Auckland travel to Melbourne, and the last time they did play that game, it was a 0-0 draw. The Reds in the Premier League, now 13 points clear. You'll be absolutely stoked. Yep. Arsenal dropping points at home, even better. A little bit of a hiccup. With Liverpool in that West Ham game. Very, very poor own goal.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Van Dijk made up for it anyway. 3 minutes later, so
exactly.
Whatever.
Andy Robertson's giving him a gobful, and then 3 minutes later he scores the winner. So I'd like to think of what Andy Robertson did as motivation.
Yeah. A little bit of a reset for Van Dijk, I think. Keep him in check. And then he does what he does best. Strong header. Thanks for coming. We would have that with Maguire maybe 2023, but that's all you get. You just get the own goal. You don't get the goal on the other side. So.
There's no redemption. It's just the disappointment. Yeah.
But he's been great for us this season, so no complaints from me. 6 games left to play. Liverpool now, 76 points or so. 6 points left for you guys. I think we can write that off. I'm willing to write that off for you guys, so I can just focus on the Europa League. And I don't have to worry about watching Man United in the Premier anymore, because it's been a horrible season to watch.
Well, I suppose, I mean, the point you raise is a good one, because now it's all about European spots, isn't it? Who claims those European spots? And just
battle for 5th and 6th there as well.
Oh,
Man
mate,
City and Chelsea.
It's all on, because we just saw Newcastle United defeat Crystal Palace 5-0, and that they are the form team of the English Premier League. They've won their last 5. 6 in all competitions if you take into account the Carabao Cup final against Liverpool. Yep. And all of a sudden they've stormed into 3rd spot. And I'm starting to feel a little bit worried, a little bit concerned for Chris Wood's Nottingham Forest, because that bumps them down into 4th. And then you've got that chasing pack that might sort of overtake and consume them and force them out of European spots. So for something that has looked really likely for a long, long time, is all of a sudden you're just casting a little bit of doubt on Nottingham Forest's place in European football next season, Phil.
Yeah, it's a nice little battle towards the end of that, I guess. Top 6. It would have been great to see Aston Villa get through, and just think about 7th place Aston Villa getting into a Champions League spot as well. What was I going to say next? I think we'll move on from the Prem, because my mental health is shot after seeing we lost 4-1 to Newcastle. Come on.
Flogging.
Move on. We got Lyon on Friday. Looking forward to that one. F1, Max Verstappen sits out of the top 2 in the championship for the first time since 2022. Great to see. We talked about it a bit last week. I love a bit of excitement, a bit of a change-up, not a one-man show anymore. McLaren doing very well. Oscar Piastri, get up. Betting. Let's move on. The 40-20 versus the 50-22. You did better than me last week, but we both fell short.
Yeah.
What have you got this week?
Do you just want me to give you both of them straight away? Are we alternating
Absolutely.
here?
Give me both.
Okay.
Give me both.
All right. So I'm going against the Blues. I'm saying the Crusaders are going to win. That's paying $1.45. And then the other game that I'm backing, there's been a bit of a Jekyll and Hyde about the New South Wales Waratahs. And full disclosure, I was born in Parramatta, Sydney. So when the family moved to New Zealand, I actually supported the Waratahs before I finally got on board the Blues bandwagon. So I've got a soft spot for the Tars, but their form's been really strange. They've won all their home games, they've lost all their away games, and I feel like this week that's the week it changes, because they play the bottom of the table Fiji Drua. So I'm backing the Tars. They're paying $2.60, so the 2-leg multi is paying $3.77.
Nice. Yeah, I really like that one, because both of those teams seem to play very different when they're at home. But this, as you said, this might be the week where they change it around purely based off how well they actually played last week. They played so good against the Chiefs, and the Drua are in a bit of a slump. I think in my tip sheet, I went something for either team to win by 7.5 or under 7.5. I think it'll be close, but it's going to be an absolute game to watch. I'm going for the Bulldogs this week. They've scored exactly 20 points in their last 2 games. We talked about the best defense in the league. Rabbitohs, no Alex Johnson, no Sullivan. They get Walker back, though. I'm not particularly fond of Cody Walker. I don't think he adds anything really to that team.
He doesn't add anything. He adds something.
Well, to be honest, it's still that strange pairing with Mitchell.
Yeah.
And I don't think he adds anything that gets them over the line against a very strong Bulldogs defense. And so I'm going only Bulldogs to score 20 plus points, and that pays $1.92 against the Bunnies. I just think they're missing a few key players still, and the Bulldogs are too good this season. Yeah, that's backed up by a very prolific player from the Raiders, Hudson Young. He's having a season of a lifetime. He's paying $2.25 to score for the Raiders against the Titans.
Yeah, I like
I'm
the
not
sound
going
of
to say
that.
that's a lock, but I'm pretty confident he's that good.
Okay.
Speaking of locks, we can go into the lock versus laugh. What have you got for your laugh this week?
Well, my lock is it's the Eels, right? So I believe that upon returning to the side, and just, he'll be fuming, sitting there watching the Eels just capitulate week after week. Mitch Moses is going to have an incredible performance. This is a guy that many experts and pundits predicted that he would win the Dally M at the end of this season. So in order for that to happen, he's got to do something pretty exceptional and turn this Eels side around. Yeah, so first game back, I reckon he's a try scorer. Anytime try scorer for Mitch Moses is paying $4, and that's my lock.
Nice. I love that.
And he scored in this fixture before. Yeah, I don't know if you recall, but he went almost the length of the field and scored in the corner. I can't remember, was it 2 years ago on Easter Monday, maybe longer? So, he's got history in this fixture, and I reckon it'll all help. It'll all pay off, and so we'll score on Monday.
Nice. Well, you might as well add a little footy 20 in there as well. Why not? Have the return of a lifetime. Smack a footy 20, score a full field try, really get the Eels up and about. I'm looking forward to that game, man. I've said it before. I think something big happens there.
Yeah.
My lock, I had to try and diversify. I really thought you were going for the Auckland.
Nah.
So I'll leave that be. I won't steal it from you. I'm going Piastri to be the fastest qualifier in Saudi this weekend. I think that race takes place on Monday morning, unfortunately. We'll move on to your laugh.
Yeah, my laugh.
Is there more value than the lock this week?
Yeah, it is. I'm wondering if because Arsenal are so focused now on Champions League football and you can kiss goodbye to the English Premier League title race. It's Liverpool's, right?
Yeah.
I wonder whether they take their eye off the ball, so to speak, and Ipswich, who are going down, might just beat them this weekend. So Ipswich to beat Arsenal in the Premier League is paying $7. I'm getting on that.
Is it really? My goodness.
Yeah.
I love that. I would love
it's
it
not going to
even more if
happen.
it comes true. Right?
Yeah. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
Probably not.
No.
But they have been slipping up. They've definitely been slipping up, and Ipswich do have some quality up front. My laugh, I'm sticking with the laugh from the week prior. I did say Man United, we're going to win. We're going to get through. So Man United, we're going in a correct score again, 2-1 at home versus Lyon, paying $7.50. Come on. That's not bad value. I think we'll definitely win. And I think Lyon definitely scores. So for us to progress, let's get 2 goals, please, and let's send them packing. $7.50. Beautiful. Well, plenty of sport again this weekend and during the week. It's been an absolute treat. We'll check in next week and see how those bets go. Thanks for joining us once again.